From allergies to zinc deficiencies, hangry to hay fever, we provide easy-to-absorb information to improve your health. It sounds like health on Texas A&M Health Talk. Howdy, welcome to Sounds Like Health. I am Mary Lee Meyer.
And I'm our co-host, Sam Kraft.
And we are here today with the lovely Cindy Weston. She's a family nurse practitioner at the Texas A&M College of Nursing. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Round 2. I forgot. We did flu last time, didn't we?
We did.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. I'm always excited to talk about health topics.
We appreciate it. You were always great to us, and we enjoy having you here.
Yes, absolutely. And so we brought you here because it's summertime and we're all out in the sun now, and that's something that can either go very right or very wrong. There's a lot of bad things that can happen when you're out in the sun. And we've always heard the phrase like sun sickness or sun poisoning. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, you hear that term, sun poisoning, and it's really a reflection of being out in the sun and the effects that you feel. You feel poisoned by the sun after you've been out for an extended period of time and the sun's taken detrimental effects on you. So it's a feeling almost like having the flu when you've been out in the sun too long. You feel tired, you can feel nauseated. Some people even have vomiting afterwards and achy all over, hot, feverish. That's really, when you hear that term, sun poisoning, that's those after effects of having too much sun. The sun can be good, and it can elevate our mood. And this time of year, we all like to get out in it, especially on like a clear day and when there's that little breeze, and it feels so good to be out in the sun. But too much can be harmful, and we know that it has long-term effects.
And those symptoms, that's different than sun, like heat exhaustion, because right, if it's heat exhaustion, those symptoms happen immediately, but doesn't sun sickness kind of happen after the fact?
It's interesting to hear it described, I guess. So typically being out in the sun, what we worry about is the sunburn. And a sunburn can happen after just 15 minutes of sun exposure. So the way to protect against that, of course, is sunscreen. And you can do that through clothing that now has the UV protection. There's a lot of nice clothing lines that have up to 50 UV protection, and kind of start at the neck and cover your arms, good shirt. Or you can use sunscreen, at least an SPF of 30, but I really like the 50 because it gives you the good coverage. Ideally, it should be applied about 20 to 30 minutes before you go out into the sun for that protection. And so you have to kind of think ahead. I'm going to be going out in the sun, just put it on in the morning, and make sure that the ears are covered, the back of the neck, those really vulnerable areas that sometimes you miss. Wearing a hat helps protect the scalp. But those are preventative ways to help prevent a sunburn. What you're referring to, sun sickness, would be after being out in the sun for an extended period of time, you tend to get a little dehydrated, and a lot of times that leads to that feeling of the weakness and dizziness and aching all over. So staying hydrated can help, in addition to wearing the sunscreen to prevent a burn.
Does sunscreen help you? I know it prevents sunburns, but does it help anything else on you as far as like keeping the heat away, or I guess it's the sun's not getting to your skin, so it's not affecting you as much as it would be. I know when I get sunburned, I always feel hotter, and I feel really awful. I mean, it's kind of the same.
So what you probably feel with that heat and maybe a little swelling and redness is the inflammatory response that comes as a result of the damaged skin or the exposure to heat and dehydration. It triggers the immune system, which is trying to heal any damage to the body. And the skin is the largest organ in the body. So when our skin gets damaged, it really triggers that immune system to kick in to start repairing itself. And so the blood vessels dilate and it sends all the immune mediators to start that repair process. And that dilation leads to some swelling and redness and just feeling kind of crummy. After exposure.
I just always feel beat up by the sun, especially when the top of my ears get sunburned. That is awful.
I've gotten sunburned in my part before.
Yes.
Oh, no.
It was the worst because I couldn't brush my hair for like a week. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Guys are a lot better about wearing hats than we are. I mean, a hat is always a good idea for a woman when it's in the store, but when we get it home, it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't look exactly the way I wanted it to look. But it is important when you're going to be out in the sun to protect the head and the scalp. That damage to the skin that occurs with too much sun exposure actually alters the DNA. And even though the skin can repair, sometimes that DNA stays damaged. And that's what leads to skin cancer later on.
That was my next question, was skin cancer. And I mean, I guess there's no really telling how prone you are to get skin cancer from being in the sun for X amount of time. Like, that nobody knows if there's a real number or not, but it's still scary. So does sunscreen help? I don't know if they can even prove that. I mean, I guess it works
absolutely.
Off, so it does help.
Absolutely. Because the goal with a sunscreen is to prevent the sunburn. And the sunscreen being applied correctly, that 20 to 30 minutes before sun exposure, and then reapplying every couple of hours, especially if you're getting wet or sweating or getting in the water, that helps prevent the sunburn. And preventing sunburns is what prevents the skin cancer, because that's when the skin gets damaged, the DNA gets damaged. And although the skin will repair itself, sometimes the DNA stays damaged.
When you say damage, it really brings like sun poisoning back home to like really, for me, it kind of dumbs it down to really what the sun is doing to you. It really is poisoning you.
That's
to
why
an
people
extent.
get such leathery skin or a lot of different sunspots as they age.
Yeah.
And is there a
wrinkles?
Yeah, wrinkles for sure.
So can that happen at any time in somebody's life? Like if a young child gets sunburnt a lot, will they...
Yeah, it's cumulative over the lifetime. So obviously the younger you are experiencing a sunburn, the more damaging it can be for the long term. So really want to protect children, young adults. The most vulnerable age is really the teen years to the early 20s, because that's when you kind of think, nothing's going to happen to me. And, the nice tan, it can be appealing in appearance. And so that's really one of the most vulnerable times because of the increased sun exposure. But the only safe tan is a fake tan.
Well, fake tan meaning like spray on tan.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because the tanning booths are like the late 90s are like deathbeds now. It's like skin cancer and scabies and all sorts of terrible things.
Scabies, good.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Terrible things. Yeah, no, and nobody knew about them then. It was like that was all the rage. That's what it was.
The light in a tanning bed is mostly UVA light, and it goes deeper and does that more significant damage. So tanning beds, an exposure to tanning beds increases the lifetime risk of melanoma, malignant melanoma skin cancer by up to 75%.
Good Lord.
Increases significantly.
It's almost a guarantee.
The risk that you're going to have malignant 75%,
melanoma. Yeah.
It's a significant increased risk.
Time machine. Don't get in tanning beds.
Yeah. With skin cancer, though, you can... If you're aware and you're looking for it, sometimes it can be caught early enough, but still don't want to risk that 75% increase.
More brown. No.
And so that's the UV, the different UV lights. And I don't think I realized that different clothes could protect you from different UV
I've heard
lights.
That.
I knew when you buy sunscreen, you want to get it that protects ultraviolet A and B.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And then also remember eye protection, because you really want sunglasses that have that UV protection built into them as well. we forget about our eyes, but the eye exposure to sun over time leads to cataracts later in life. All these things eventually catch up with you, in the early phases. It's nice going out into the sun and feeling that bright sunshine on your face, but over time, without protection, it will catch up.
I think one thing that we didn't talk about beforehand, but I want to talk about is the mental health of vitamin D and what the sun can do to you and help you in that aspect of things. Because I know if you're feeling depressed, they'll tell you to get outside and get some sunshine. And it's not just like an old wives' tale. That's like a real thing, isn't it?
It's a real thing. The sun does help elevate our mood. It's believed that the sun helps release serotonin as well, which is kind of our feel-good hormone. So getting out into the sun is good. And we do wear sunscreen now. And we stay indoors a lot more than really throughout the prior history of the world. And so vitamin D levels across our country are oftentimes very low, and people are vitamin D deficient. One way to get vitamin D is through the sun, but you can also do it through oral supplement. The sun exposure, just remember it should be limited, because beyond that 15 minutes, you're running a risk of sunburn. And especially during the hottest parts of the day, from about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., that's the highest risk.
Well, even
sunburn.
on cloudy days, some people say that cloudy days are way worse to get sunburned than just a direct sunlight. Is that true?
Well, it's because a big part of it is you don't realize that you're having all that sun exposure because you don't see the sun.
Sure.
So, and it's sometimes a little cooler outside on a cloudy day. So you have more of that accumulation of the sun.
Yeah, and I feel like on a cloudy day, I don't remember to reapply, because I feel like if I'm in the middle of some activity out in the sun, I will feel how hot, like temperature-wise, my skin is, and then that triggers me to reapply my sunscreen. But if it's cloudy, nice, it's not on the top of my mind.
I don't even put any on when it's cloudy outside, to be honest. If I'm outside working, I just don't think about it, because I'm like, oh, well, it's the sun. I mean, it's cloudy. It's not for the exact reason we just talked about. Like, I just don't do it.
Now,
I will now.
Good.
Yeah, no. Note to self now. Yes.
And so what happens when you do get, a sunburn, or you do start to feel sick from the sun? Is there a way to reverse what you've already done?
Well, if you're feeling like you've had too much sun, staying hydrated is number one, because a lot of times the effects are related to dehydration from the sun exposure. So really drinking extra water, diluted sports drinks, half sport drink, half water, to help replace some of the electrolytes, eating a banana to help replace some of those electrolytes, and drinking a full glass of water. Hydration is the key. And you can use anti-inflammatory medications like ibuprofen, can help with the body aches or that inflammatory response that comes with the sunburn. Aloe, the plant aloe, has a lot of health benefits. To put that aloe on your skin,
It feels so good.
It does.
Yeah.
It's immediate
It's like an air
relief.
conditioner for my skin.
I almost feel like it take all the heat out, and it just kind of sizzles. Feels
Like
so
frying
good.
an egg.
Put like a little egg cooking.
Yeah. It's a moisturizer, and it's a natural plant, and it has vitamins in the aloe gel itself. So you can actually break off the plant and rub it directly on your skin.
Wow.
And now you can buy aloe gel as a product
Sure.
at the store. Either one of those. I always recommend the aloe plant, because an aloe plant in your house is like an oxygen bomb. It releases a lot of oxygen into the air. It absorbs a lot of toxins from the air. And then that plant, if you ever have a sunburn or a skin issue, you can break it off. And occasionally someone will have an aloe allergy, so caution to people that do. But for the most part, it's very soothing and protective for the skin, healing for the skin.
What do you do about, I know we're still kind of back and forth with sunburns, but I think that's the most common thing I think people think of when they think sun poisoning. To me, it is anyway. When you get a sunburn that's got a really bad burn, like a second or third degree, like, there's bubbling or a blister, if that's the word, and maybe like some peeling. Like, at that point, is it treatable, or do you need to go see somebody?
So if you have a blister with a sunburn, it's a second degree burn.
Okay.
So it's a little more serious. A typical sunburn would be considered a 1st-degree burn. It's kind of the epidermal layer. By the time you get to a 2nd-degree burn, it's a little deeper into the thickness of the skin. It's recommended don't pop that blister. That blister is a protective covering for the skin. It's like a protective dressing. So don't pop it. Let it just stay there. Try to protect it. But it is a more serious burn, and especially if you have a large part of your body with a 2nd-degree burn, that's going to create a more systemic inflammatory immune response because you've damaged a significant portion of your skin, the largest organ in your body. So it may require medical attention at that point. If you have just a single blister, you can probably treat that and take care of it. But if you have blisters all over your body from exposure to the sun, that's pretty significant.
Well, infection would be a big cause of concern too, I think.
After, in the healing process, those can get infected, and those would have symptoms of, drainage from that wound, and sometimes odor, and
well, the nasty
all
things that come with
more
infection.
redness,
it just
fever.
hurts my soul.
I just consider it really.
Yeah.
And also getting a burn of that nature. I'm just, my brother got this huge burn on his back one year, and even when he put a shirt on to go to work the next day.
Oh, it's awful.
Oh,
it just stays with you.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't go away.
Yeah. And hydration is key after any type of sunburn. Your body's depleted. And if you think of a burn, like burn treatment, if we had somebody that was burnt from a fire or chemical and they come in and their skin has been damaged in that way, our first treatment is hydration. We give them IV fluids to rehydrate quickly. And we give a lot of fluids because the skin is the protective layer for the fluids in your body. And an adult is 60% water. We're just big balls of water. And a baby is 80% water. So they're really big balls of water. So the younger you are, the more hydration you need after.
So is the skin
exposure.
literally just dried out? I mean, is that part of it?
What the skin does is help keep that moisture, that fluid inside of your body. And when you've damaged that ability of the body to keep the fluid in, you're losing fluid, whether you see it or not. It's an insensible loss of that fluid, and you need that for your cells to stay healthy in your body.
And what about like topical lotions? I know aloe's in a lotion now, but what about just a lotion you can grab from the store? Would that help, or is that just a temporary relief, or is that an actual semi-long-term relief?
So it's recommended after sun exposure or dryness or injury to the skin to moisturize it. So there are a lot of good products that will moisturize, and we know aloe is a natural product that'll moisturize. But
what about suntanning lotion? Like, how does that work? Is that the same?
Oh, the
premise?
oils?
Yeah, like it's. I feel like it's you see guys and they get all oiled up, or ladies, whoever, and they. It feels like it just attracts the sun more than repellent. Is that true? How does that work?
So, those products were really popular when I was growing up.
And 80s, 90s. I mean, I'm there with you. I understand. That's what everybody did. You want to get a tan, you went down there and you looked like you were rubbing up with like some kind of cooking oil.
And they smell great, like coconut. They had this great tropical smell to them. I know. No, they didn't.
No.
That's why we see, I think, an increased incidence of skin cancer today is because of those products being popular, and we know more. We know the long-term impact of exposure to the sun, and like I said, it catches up with you with time.
In addition to sunburns, what else can happen in the sun?
Well, things that you would worry about would be heat exhaustion, which you brought up earlier. Heat exhaustion is really when you've been out into the sun and you're leading into dehydration. So you'll a lot of times see that profuse sweating. You'll see sometimes nausea, dizziness, a headache, feeling really weak and fatigued. Those are signs of heat exhaustion. That means you're getting too much sun. You need to hydrate and get out of the sun. Maybe do a cool shower, a tepid shower where it's not really hot, not really too cold, to sort of cool your body temperature down.
And when do you need to see somebody about that? When are those symptoms bad enough that you need to go see a healthcare provider?
Well, it'd be if those symptoms aren't correcting with the treatment that you're doing with hydration and cool shower, and you're not recovering from those with heat exhaustion. Typically, just getting in and out of the sun will help you recover. A heat stroke is really life-threatening, and that's the next stage past heat exhaustion.
So I was going to ask, where's the line between exhaustion and stroke? 'Cause I think a lot of people, including me, don't really know the difference, but stroke is such a scary word.
Yeah.
Some kids die. Like, you always hear.
It happens
horror stories.
in athletic practices and 2-a-days and that kind of stuff, like every year.
Yeah.
So what are your stroke symptoms compared to your exhaustion? Because I think it sounds like probably the same kind of stuff, right?
Well, a lot of times there's the symptoms of heat exhaustion before heat stroke. And so if you're seeing the signs of heat exhaustion, you need to get out of the sun, hydrate, get a cool shower, and rest. Ibuprofen can help, or an anti-inflammatory, but out of the sun, out of the heat, and start cooling the body down.
So what exactly happens when you have a heat stroke? Like, does your body just shut down?
So it is an extreme past heat exhaustion. You'll see things like an altered level of consciousness, or somebody will appear a little confused. They could even have slurred speech, just like a stroke. Very weak, to the point that they're staggering. Their gait's not steady.
So it's very, very noticeable. It's not something you're going to be like, I think I'm having a heat stroke, but it's very serious.
Sometimes the symptoms can be subtle, but it's a change in that person.
Sure.
The danger is if somebody's by themselves. And so I think about people that work outside a lot for their job, and they're not necessarily staying well hydrated, or maybe they're on other medications that just put them at higher risk for heat exhaustion or heat stroke. We know that certain antibiotics increase your sensitivity to the sun, antidepressants, diuretics, some heart medications increase sensitivity to the sun and risk for heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So if they see themselves profusely sweating, we worry when you've had that episode of profuse sweating and then you're not sweating at all. That's a
weird.
severe warning sign. Well, it's a sign that you become so dehydrated you
just run out of
you're
fluids.
running out of fluids, and
Wow.
those would be reasons to seek medical attention.
At very worst, get around somebody in case you fell out or.
Mm-hmm. Oral hydration is always going to be the best. So if someone can drink fluids and keep fluids down, that's going to be the best. But someone who's having a lot of nausea and vomiting during those attempts to rehydrate, they need to seek medical attention because they may need IV or parental rehydration.
Yeah, those are pretty visible signs. So that's what, it's easy for parents to keep an eye out for those types of stuff.
Yeah. Seizures also can happen with a heat stroke. Of course, if we see a seizure, we're going to for sure seek medical
something
attention.
has definitely changed at that point.
That's emergent. Yeah.
What else? Anything else?
From the big ball of fire trying to kill us every day in our lives. Is there anything else that could try to harm us?
But we need it. It
we
life.
gotta have it.
Sustains life, and apparently
it.
sustains happiness. But it
does.
can take
Helps
it
your
away
mood.
like that.
Yeah.
Any other big things besides? Let's see here. We've talked about sunburns and heat strokes and heat exhaustion, dehydration. What other little maybe everyday things that you think our audience should be aware of that's out there?
I think the sun is good, and we all need sun exposure. I think the key thing is knowing that you're wearing appropriate clothing that will help protect your skin and keep you covered, but that's breathable and help keep you cool. That you're staying well hydrated when you're out in the sun, and that you're using sunscreen to cover those areas that are exposed to the sun. And everyone knows their complexion and their risk, but it doesn't matter about complexion. People think, well, if I'm a little bit darker toned, maybe I can get by with more sun exposure, and that's just not true. Sunburns can happen with any complexion, and sunscreen's important for everyone for protection.
And that reapplication is important too. I feel like one-time application of sunscreen isn't enough. You have to use it properly.
Absolutely. Remember in that 20 to 30 minutes before you go outside. So plan ahead. And if you know you're going to be outside, just put it on first thing in the morning and get good coverage, and then reapply every 2 hours. Or if you're getting wet or sweating a lot, make sure that you're covered.
Hopefully our listeners learned a little bit today. There's a lot of things that can happen, a lot of good things that can happen, but then the bad things can be really bad in the sun.
And if anyone does get a sunburn, to stay well hydrated afterwards. Take ibuprofen, get some rest, do a cool shower to help cool down the body temperature and help the skin heal.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming over, educating us as always.
Yes,
Thank
you for coming.
Thank you. You guys are great.
I appreciate it. We enjoy having you.
You're covering such important topics.
And this has been another episode of Sounds Like Health. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Remember to have fun in the sun, but remember to use sunscreen and watch out for the warning signs.
Thank you for joining us on Texas A&M Health Talk, a production of the Texas A&M University Health Science Center. Visit us on the web at vitalrecord.tamhsc.edu, where you'll find answers to all of your health questions. Until next time, stay healthy.